In the forest, Felix had a plan. Trick the stork with a meal in hand. But the stork was kind, she didn't complain. She turned
One bright and sunny morning in the heart of the forest, there was a clever fox named Felix out for his usual stroll. He was feeling a little hungry, so he was keeping his eyes peeled for any chance to grab a bite. As he trotted along, he noticed a stork standing by a pond. Her long neck curved gracefully as she gazed into the water. Felix, who was always up to some mischief, thought of an idea. "Hello, dear stork," Felix called out with a sly grin. "What a lovely day! How about we enjoy a meal together? I've prepared something special for us." The stork, being kind-hearted and trusting, smiled and agreed, thinking Felix had something nice planned. "I'd love that," she said, following Felix back to his den. Felix led the stork through the woods and into his den, where a charming dinner table was set up. It was all very neat, with plates and silverware in place, looking quite inviting. "Please make yourself comfortable," Felix said, pointing to a bowl of soup. "I've made this especially for you." The stork sat down across from Felix, curious but excited. However, as Felix began to enjoy his soup, the stork found it difficult to reach the bowl with her long beak. She tried, but it just wasn't possible. Felix, seeing the stork struggle, chuckled and said, "Looks like this bowl is just perfect for me." The stork felt embarrassed but didn't want to make a scene. She quietly waited, watching Felix enjoy his meal, while she couldn't even get a taste. Felix finished his soup, wiped his mouth, and leaned back, clearly satisfied. "What a lovely meal," he said with a grin, while the stork simply smiled politely, feeling disappointed. The next morning, the stork, though frustrated, decided to get back at Felix in a clever way. Instead of getting angry, she came up with a plan to teach him a lesson. She sent Felix a note inviting him to lunch. "Dear Felix, I've prepared something special for lunch. Please join me for a feast." Felix, always excited for food, agreed without a second thought. When he arrived at the stork's home, she greeted him warmly and led him to the table, where a large pot of stew sat steaming in the middle. It smelled delicious, and Felix eagerly sat down. "Please enjoy the meal," the stork said with a smile. Felix, eager to dig in, leaned over to the pot, but quickly realized that the dish was much too deep for him to reach. His nose couldn't even touch the surface of the stew. Meanwhile, the stork easily dipped her long beak into the pot and began to enjoy her meal. Felix tried over and over to reach the stew, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get a bite. The stork, watching him struggle, smiled softly and asked, "How do you like my stew, Felix?" Felix, now realizing that the stork had turned his trick on him, felt embarrassed. He understood what had just happened. The stork had cleverly used the same trick he'd played on her. But the stork wasn't done yet. She stood up, walked over to a nearby tree, and came back with something unexpected. A long, thin straw. "Perhaps you'd like to try this?" the stork said with a wink. "It's perfect for reaching the stew." Felix, taken aback at first, soon realized what the stork had done. The straw was just the right length for him to dip into the pot and drink the stew, just like the stork had enjoyed her soup the day before. Felix, embarrassed by his earlier actions, gave it a try and found that it worked perfectly. The stork smiled kindly. "You see, Felix, sometimes the best way to solve a problem is with patience and creativity." Felix, now humbled, looked at the stork and said, "You've taught me an important lesson. I see now that playing tricks isn't always the best way to get what you want. Kindness is far more rewarding." Felix left the stork's home that day, feeling thankful for the lesson he'd learned. He realized that while tricks might be fun, kindness and respect are what truly bring happiness. From then on, Felix made sure to treat others the way he would want to be treated. The moral of the story is simple. Treat others how you want to be treated.